What's up, guys? So I'm going to show you a couple things I've done on my Crown Vic swap. I got a 2007 Crown Vic cop car. I stuck a 65 F100 on it, and I did have trouble with my ground, as a lot of people do. I also got a wrench light. I couldn't figure out what was going on there, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that I did that maybe you want to do in your build, and maybe show how it well works, and maybe it'll help you out. So the first thing I'm going to show you is I went through everything, and I got a wrench light and I could not figure out why it was coming on. So I tested everything from the coil packs to my mass airflow sensor and my fuel injection, everything. I had power going to everything. Everything was pulsating as it should have. The only thing I didn't check was my ground, because I had my ground on my multimeter on the side of the fender. So I ended up finding out that the ground to my mass airflow sensor wasn't working. So what I did, instead of going through all of that wiring and trying to figure out where I lost the ground, I went ahead and put a ground at the mass airflow sensor, and I ran it back through the wiring harness, and I ran it back around and grounded it with my regular PCM. After that, no more wrench light. Everything ran great. So if everything seems to be pulsating, everything seems to be reading on your multimeter, it's because you're grounding it to the frame or the body or whatever, and it's not actually grounded through the PCM. So that was my issue with the wrench light. I'll try to show you some other things I've done. This is my shift linkage. I took part of the bracket off of the steering column off the Crown Vic, and I mounted it on there like that, if you can see it way down in there, and it still clips on in there. And then I built me a bracket up here to hold it up and go on to, I don't know if you can see it, the end of my shifter column, or my shifter linkage on the steering column. I hooked that cable into there and ran it up that way, and it all seems to be working. You might have to extend the part that comes off the steering column when you hook it in, so that you can get through all your gears. So that's how I ran all that. That's how I ran my wiring harness through there. My brake master cylinder, I went through the original hole the master cylinder was originally through, and then I lined up the bolts and everything from the Crown Vic master cylinder, drilled holes and bolted it up. And then a lot of the other stuff came through. The brake pedal will be way too high. It's sitting probably a foot off the ground right now, if you can't tell. So I'm gonna have to cut this, and I'll add the linkage down and re-weld it, and put the brake pedal farther to the ground. And it's a lot of wires and everything under there. This is how I ended up doing my dash. I ended up cutting out an old one out of a 62, I believe. And I wired all that, or ran my wires back behind. And I just cut it out, made it fit. I'm gonna have to probably put some silicone around it or something, make it look a little bit better. But for now, it all is in there and everything works. At first my gauges weren't working. That was a whole nother issue, and that was not a ground issue, and that's in one of my prior videos that you'll see why the instrument cluster wasn't working. But I'll show you. Once I got that all hooked up correctly. Give it a minute. Now all my gauges work. If you can see, the lights also come on too. So everything's working. Lights are working. Of course, you're gonna have an airbag light and your door light because obviously I cut all the wires for that. And I do have O2 sensor light, so the check engine light's on, but it doesn't really stop it from running. So that's kind of some of the things I've done. Also, I kept the wiring for the radio down there. I'll wire that in. I'm gonna put an old original radio out of a 62 I have back in here, and then right below it I'm gonna mount a newer style radio going through the Crown Vic plug and all that stuff. I ran my fuel shut off and my fuel module on the back here behind the seat. You still got doing my carpet and stuff. Ran all that stuff back there, ran it out through a grommet in the back. And that's all ran through here. I might have to tidy up all that wiring, get that all fixed up. And it should be almost ready to go, except for I got a couple more things to tidy up, but hope my video helps some people out there with any of the questions they have. I've been working on this thing just about all winter. I still got to finish my headlight wiring and all that stuff, and tail lights, and that's what all that junk is. But hopefully this video helps people out. This is how I mounted my battery. I had to do some cutouts around the radiator to get the battery in there, battery box, and then I got the battery on there. That's where I mounted my fuse box. That's the ABS box. Mounted all that stuff. I'll show you how I did my front of my frame. Also, I took off the big breather and put this on. I just put a bracket on there underneath and put a hose clamp on it, hold it on there. My frame on my front mounts, if you can't tell, that square tubing's angled in. So I took it straight off the frame down there. Right there's the original frame. I angled those in on both sides towards where the front original cab mounts were. Now you want to get those just about perfect, otherwise your front end won't mount right. Now I stuck those in there, welded them solid, drilled holes from the top all the way down, and I stuck my bolts in, and that's how it's mounted. It's got a rubber in there, all that stuff. I'm gonna take a piece of metal or something and put it right in here so I can force air through the radiator better, get the engine to cool down. Also, I'm gonna take one of these grounds that I had off the original Crown Vics, and I'm gonna put it on the body to the frame, and just to help make sure my grounds are all working good, which they are, but better safe than sorry. So I got a ways to go on it, and I'm getting there slowly but surely. She runs good, she sounds good. don't know what else anybody else can need. It's kind of a tedious project. My steering column, that was a whole nother issue. Watched how some guys did it. I did mine a little different. Did a lot of welding and ended up, I don't even know if I can see it. Kind of, it's down there. But there's some pictures. I'll post pictures of how I did mine. I triple pass welded it to make sure it didn't come loose, and I had the bearing all up in there. I put some bolts through it, and I put grade 8, make sure it didn't break. Hopefully it don't break. Should. She's getting there. She's definitely getting there. So started her up, and this runs flawless. Can't be mad at that. Got my lights working on the front and everything. Can't be mad at her. She's getting close. All right. Well, you guys like and subscribe, comment. I'll try to get back to you. If you need any help or any answers, try to answer you and help anybody else that has any questions. It's quite a process. I still got to go and do my bed, obviously, but we're getting there. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys.